If the Beirut blast had happened in any other country in the world, you would have had the state mobilize all of its resources to ensure that the people affected by the blast and the victims of the blast had all of the resources to be able to live a dignified life. In Lebanon, it's been the complete opposite.
It's practically almost a year in a few months, and it feels like yesterday.
Nowhere is this clearer than in the medical sector. In December, we released a report about the lack of protections for healthcare workers. And the situation that healthcare workers described to us in the middle of this pandemic was atrocious. They are overworked, they were underpaid, they weren't given the necessary personal protective equipment to be able to protect themselves from infection. And the result was that doctors and nurses were migrating en masse.
I can tell you that no matter how much I tell you or how much you've read or how much you've seen in videos, it's nothing compared to reality. We've operated on people, and I still remember the face of every single patient I operated on during this period. And we've had trouble sleeping, we've had trouble expressing ourselves. We really felt helpless and hopeless.
Those detained range from the head of the port authority, the head of the customs administration, to some employees of a maintenance company who are doing works on the warehouse where the ammonium nitrate that exploded was stored. But all of them are charged with the same crimes, including intentional homicide. And despite the fact that these 25 people have been in detention since August, not a single political official or high-level security official has been questioned, despite some charges filed against the Prime Minister and 3 former ministers. So there really is very much a sense of injustice, in a sense that those really responsible for the blast may evade accountability again, as they always do. And we've seen really the entire political establishment push back against this investigation due to the dangerous precedent it might set for them of holding top political officials accountable. So it's become incredibly clear that there can be no justice for the victims or for the defendants in this flawed judicial system, and that an international inquiry is the only hope for the Lebanese public to get the answers that they deserve. It took more than 3 months after the explosion for the government aid to start reaching those most impacted by the blast. The army began distributing cash payments to homes damaged by the blast, but those weren't consistent. So it's unclear, there's no transparency around how those decisions were made, who received money, how much money they received. And for many people, this aid just never materialized. And even by the army's own estimation, the payments that they make will only cover a quarter of the damages. Unfortunately, a lot of the reconstruction in some of the areas affected by the blast has had the unintended consequence of increasing evictions, particularly of populations who are already really marginalized. What happened is a lot of NGOs and even the government gave aid to homeowners in order to reconstruct and rebuild their homes. And then those homeowners saw the value of their homes increase, so they've resorted to evicting the tenants. It's been 6 months since the explosion, and nobody's been held accountable. And the government is stalling, and it's putting up roadblocks for the investigation, betting on the fact that nobody's going to act, nobody's going to prevent them from doing that, and that Lebanon has really receded from the public, from the global media attention. And so one way, to show solidarity with the people of Lebanon is to continue talking about the blast, continue talking about the corruption that led to something as horrific as the blast, continue talking about the way that the government has failed its population by failing to provide any kind of social or economic support.